All right, peace to the 12. So y'all see the title. This is going to be about the Jews that fled into Africa. All right, after the Roman siege. All right, in this video, I'm going to touch on some geography. I'm going to go into some undeniable proof that you did have Judean presence in the African continent, of course, all throughout Africa, North Africa, East Africa, as well as West Africa. We're also going to go into the scriptures, and I want to show you the books that prove everything that I'm saying, as usual. Even though I already know the people watching this video, there's going to be those guys that don't care about the proof. They're going to put a dumb comment. Go ahead and put your dumb comment, because what the dumb comment does is it gets me more into the algorithm anyway, which you hating. But anyway, so yes, as the title entails, you did have Judean presence in the continent of so-called Africa. Okay, now when we look at the Roman territories, all right, this is during the first triumvirate. When we look at the Roman territories, first of all, this spot right here, you see this spot right here, this spot is Israel. This spot is Israel, which is right next to the African continent. All right, now scholars are, and first of all, let me say this too. I should have said this in the beginning, but this isn't even far-fetched, because biblically, the Israelites fled into Africa multiple times on multiple occasions, which I will get those scriptures in a minute. But now in conventional history, they like to tell you that Israel fled up north. They fled up north to avoid the Roman persecution. But I mean, in reality, even though this is a video focusing on the continent of Africa, in reality, the Israelites are all over all the four corners of the earth, and there were Israelites that went into the European continent, so-called European continent, as well as parts of Asia, so on and so forth. But like I said, the focus of this video is focusing on Africa, right? But yeah, this is Israel on the map. Now, it makes perfect sense that the Israelites would flee into Africa, considering the fact that the interior of Africa and below, the Romans did not have territories in there. Okay, and if they left Israel and went through here, this is Roman territory. Also, this is a Parthian Empire. You know, this really ain't got nothing to do with the video, but just a little side note. The Parthian Empire is pretty cool because historically, the Parthian Empire is pretty cool because they had a battery system. They had something known as the Parthian battery, also known as the Baghdad battery, which shows that there was knowledge of electricity all the way back in this time period. All right, but anyway, let's get into, and these are all the African spots, which is like parts of North Africa that Rome had settlements in. But let's get into the scriptures and prove to the fact that it's nothing new that the Israelites went into Africa. It's nothing new. They've been doing it for all throughout the scriptures. We go to Genesis 46 and 6, right? Genesis 46 and 6. And they took their cattle and their goods, which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt. Jacob and all his seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed brought he with him into Egypt. So that's one example of Jacob and his sons and daughters going into Egypt, right? Speaks on that again in Psalms 105 and 23. Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham. And he increased his people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies. So once again, Israel sojourned in the land of Ham. Israel sojourned in Egypt. So Israel sojourned in the land of Africa. Okay? So these are just instances. Let's get another one. 1 Kings 11 and 40. Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt, unto Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. So Jeroboam fled into Egypt. Jeroboam, who was he? He was the first king of the northern kingdom of Israel. Okay? Isaiah 52 and 4. For thus saith the Lord Yahawah, my people went down aforetime into Egypt to sojourn there, and the Assyrian oppressed them without cause. All right, so our people been fleeing into Egypt. All right. Jeremiah 26 and 21. And when Jehoiakim, the king with all his mighty men, and all the princes heard his words, the king sought to put him to death. But when Uriah heard it, he was afraid and fled and went into Egypt. All right. Jehoiakim was the son of Josiah, the last king of Judah. And the third, son of Josiah and the third from the last king of Judah. Even in the New Testament, in the so-called New Testament, Joseph and Mary, what did they do? They fled into Egypt. Matthew 2:13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother and flee into Egypt. And be thou there until I will bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt. So Mary and Joseph also went into Egypt. And we know why, because there were settlements of Israelites already in Egypt. You learn about that in 2 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. The brethren, the Jews that be at Jerusalem and in the land of Judea, wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout Egypt, health and peace. So the Jews were all throughout Egypt. All right. And side note, I mentioned it all these times. Side note, I mentioned all these people that flee into Egypt. To you brothers that's watching this, don't start packing your bags and try to run off to Egypt, man. All right. Don't try to do that to escape Jacob's trouble. All right. Isaiah chapter 30 speaks on our people who try to trust in Egypt. Isaiah chapter 30. Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord Yahawah, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with the covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. That walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. Okay. Also speaks on that in Jeremiah 42:18. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, as mine anger and my fury hath been poured forth upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so shall my fury be poured forth upon you, when ye shall enter into Egypt, and ye shall be in execration and an astonishment and a curse and a reproach, and ye shall see this place no more. So it's not about going back into Egypt, but I'm just letting you know that yes, we did. The Israelites went to Africa many times to flee persecution. Okay, and you also had Judeans that were in Libya, which when you read about Libya in the scriptures, understand that Libya was a name for the African continent at that time period. All right, when you read Acts, the 2nd chapter, and the 5th verse. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So that shows you what? That you had Judeans all in many nations, which is why the gospel was preached unto many nations, because they were speaking to the Israelites scattered abroad. Now we go down to verse 9, Acts 2:9. This is dealing with who? The Jews out of every nation under heaven. So there were Jews in Parthia, Medes, Elamites, and the dwellers in Mesopotamia, and in Judea, and Cappadocia, and Pontus, and Asia. Phrygia, and Pamphylia, in Egypt, and in the parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians. We do hear them speak in our tongues and wonderful works of God. Now, mind you, once again, all these people were Judeans. But you see this map. This is a map that Herodotus made. And as you can see, it says Europe, Asia, and Libya. Okay? So it was called Libya. Okay? And even if you Google it, right? You Google it. It says, to the ancient Greeks, Libya was one of the 3 known continents. See that? So going back, this word Libya, Libya was one of the 3 known continents along with Asia and Europe. In this sense, Libya was the whole known African continent to the west of the Nile Valley and extended south of Egypt. All right, so Africa was known as Libya at one point. All right, and also it makes perfect sense that they would flee once again into the African continent, because why would you flee directly into Roman rule when you're trying to escape them? All right, going straight. But and what do I mean? Because Romans never conquered what they call so-called sub-Saharan Africa. All right, Defeated by the logistical problems of campaigning in the desert, the Romans pulled back to the southern border of Egypt and the pre-desert in North Africa, never to attempt to extend their power south into the Sahara and Nubia again. All right. They did ultimately end up conquering Carthage, the territory in North Africa. Now, let's speak about our people being dispersed throughout the continents, or throughout the continent of Africa specifically. Once again, that's the point of this video. And once, like I told you, we're going to get to the books in a minute, proving that, yes, you did have Israelites, you did have Judeans in the continent of Africa, North Africa, West Africa, and East Africa. Now, let's read Isaiah 11 and 10. This Isaiah 11 and 10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. So you see, our people were scattered in Egypt. I mean, there's a lot of places they mentioned, but Egypt, which is in Africa, North Africa, and from Cush, which is in Eastern Africa, right? And really, in an extended sense, Cush goes back to Ethiopia. Look, Cush goes back to Ethiopia. Cush or Kawash. Cush or Ethiopia. See that? The name of the son of Ham and of his territory. Also of an Israelite, Cush, Ethiopia. All right, we go to Isaiah 11 and 11, which is what I just read earlier. In other versions, it doesn't even say Cush. In other versions, it says Ethiopia. New Living Translations, Ethiopia, 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 Ethiopia. See that? So it doesn't say Cush. Cush and Ethiopia are interchangeable. Right? And even to this very day, you have Ethiopian Jews. You have something known as Ethiopian Jews in Beta Israel, who, by the way, are treated horribly. All right, look, it says, don't forget to go back to the jungle in Africa. We don't need or want you in Israel. You see that? See? that's that Amalek hatred. But anyway, and the reason I say that it says Ethiopia, but understand Ethiopia was also, one point in time, the name for the continent of Africa. Africa used to be called Ethiopia. The term Guinea or Guyana becoming even more popular to describe the region of West Africa, accessible from the Gulf of Guyana until the mid-17th century. The terms Guinea and Ethiopia or Ethiopia were popular used to describe the lands of south to the Sahara. All right, and they had many names: Libya, Ethiopia, Corfu, Ortegia, and Alkebulan. Right? Now, and speaking of Ethiopians, right? There was a historian, a Roman historian, in 56 AD. There was a Roman historian who compared the Jews to Ethiopians. Let's get that in his book, The Histories of Tacitus. All right, page 399, where he states, many assert that the Jews were an Ethiopian race, driven out by fear or hatred to seek a new home in the reign of King Cepheus. So he said many assert that the Jews were an Ethiopian race, which means what? All right, they had the same skin complexion as the Ethiopians. All right, which makes me laugh when people think that we're just making this up. We don't have any proof. But in this video, I'm going to prove many so-called African Jews are documented by so-called white people. All right, now he said many assert that the Jews were an Ethiopian race, driven out by fear and hatred to seek a new home. Well, this guy made a similar statement when about the reliefs of Lachish. I'll explain in a minute. This is a guy by the name of Edward Hayes Plumtree, born in 1821, born in the 1800s. He wrote a book titled Assyrian and Babylonian Inscriptions in Their Bearing of the Old Testament Scriptures. Right? Now watch this. He's speaking about the reliefs of Lachish. These are the Lachish reliefs. All right? And he's specifically speaking about this part right here. All right? Which we'll zoom in on that later. And he's going to compare these people to Ethiopians. All right? Page 448. It is significant that the captives are for the most part represented as having woolly hair, as though they had belonged to the Ethiopian army of Tarhaka. So he's saying most of the captives had woolly hair, like Ethiopians. All right, now someone could say, well, maybe these are pictures of Ethiopian captives. No, because this guy, Sir Austin Henry Layard, the Assyriologist, who was also born in the 1800s, he was born in 1817, he's going to state that these are, in fact, Jews. All right, you go to Discoveries in the Ruins of Nineveh and Babylon by Austin Henry Layard, page 129. He states, and this is the same picture, he states, the captives were undoubtedly Jews. Their physiognomy was strikingly indicated in the sculptures. All right, and once again, they were compared to have woolly hair like as of the Ethiopians. Why does he say that? Because this is a picture of a mid-century African woman, a bronze head sculpture in the 1950s. Look at her hair. Look at the hair of the Hebrews in captivity on the Assyrian relief, the relief of Lachish. This is another African sculpture. Look at this. And look at the Assyrians flaying Hebrews alive. Okay, even in the scriptures, the Israelites are compared to the Ethiopians. You go to Amos 9:7, which states, are ye not as children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel, saith the Lord? Have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Caphtor, and the Syrians from Ker? All right, other versions. Are not you Israelites the same to me as the Cushites, declares the Lord? Are ye not like the Cushites to me, O people of Israel? Are ye not like the Cushites to me, O children of Israel? Are ye not as children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? You people of Israel are like the people from Sudan, says the Lord. Aren't you people of Israel like the people of Cush to me? You Israelites are just like the Ethiopians in my sight. Sons of Cushim are you not to me, O sons of Israel? All right. Now you can say like them because of their skin complexion, but also people can say, well, he was just talking about that they had strayed away. Well, it adds up because remember, he said that they have woolly hair as though they belong to the Ethiopian army. This guy said that these were clearly Jews. And once again, Tacitus stated in his book that many assert that the Jews were an Ethiopian race. All right, so-called black people. Now you could say, okay, well, we know that they were in Ethiopia, and we know that they were in North Africa, and we know that they were in Ethiopia. So what does this have to do? What does this have to do with West Africa? All right, they say just stay here, just stay in North Africa and East Africa. Well, there's a scripture that speaks on this same thing. Now, when we go to Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 9, it states, for then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may call upon the name of the Lord, to serve him with one consent. And the true name of the Lord, the pure name of the Lord, is Yahawah, and his son's name is yahawashi. I've done videos on that. All right, now check this out. So he's going to turn to the people, and we're going to serve him with one consent. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring mine offering. So it says from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. All right. So this is Ethiopia. This is the rivers. All right. So beyond the rivers of Ethiopia would be what? That would be Central as well as West Africa. Beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. For those of you that are saying, oh, no, it's not talking about that. First of all, as you can see, these parts right here are gulfs, oceans, and seas. These are not rivers. So beyond the rivers of Ethiopia is pointing this way, all right, which is west/south/central, right? Now, people that are incredulous, this is the historical part where we're going to get my sources, all right? It was a long explanation. We're almost 20 minutes in, but whatever, man. All right, we're going to learn the real history. We're going to go through different books all the way from the 1400s to the 1900s. So this is a guy by the name of John O. Gilby. John L. Gilby. He was a cartographer. He was a translator. He was born in the 1600s. He died in 1676. All right? See what John L. Gilby had to say in his book, Africa being an accurate description of the regions of Egypt, Barbary, Libya, and I'm not reading all that. But that's the name of the book. All right? We'll go to page 334. Which states the country of the Jews of the kingdom of Semen. Right? It says Sir Anitus calls this country in Italian Terra Guidi. The Abyssinians Abyssines, Zanuche, but diverse Europeans, but Slovakia. Europeans a little altering the pronunciations Seaman, or Zuman, or Zyman. Alright. It lieth enclosed with mountains and deserts of the east extending to themselves to the Nile, on the south to Congo, and the equatorial line, or equinoctial line, in the west of the kingdom of Benin, and on the north over again to Divina and Medra, a country but little known and little conversed with under a dominion of the Abyssine. So he said that there was a kingdom of Jews, the country of the Jews, the kingdom of Semen. And this word Terra Guidi, this word Guidi actually goes back to Judean, right? Guidi, Wiktionary, Judea, all right? The Princeton Dante Project, Guidi, the Jews, or Guide, the Jews, Judean, Judea. Okay, Guidi, the Jews. And Terra means land. So, Guidi Terra means Judean land, or land of the Jews. Alright? Am I making sense? Guidio, Judean, Jewish person, Jew, Judean people. Right? The country of the Jews, the kingdom of Semen, Terra Guidi. It's in what? Africa. Okay? Same book. Page 334. It says the country of the Jews, or kingdom of Semen. Oh, this is the same page. I just got the actual book this time. Country of Jews or kingdom of Semen. Terra Guidi. See that? And it says by Negro land. By Negro land. That's in West and Central Africa. Negro land. Okay? And at the bottom over here, that's where we had the kingdom of Wida. Alright, the kingdom of Judah, the kingdom of Wida, the Wida slave, the kingdom of Judah. Alright, this word Wida, kingdom of Wida, known locally as Guaya, but also known and spelled in old literature. Check this out, right? Wida, Judah, Wuda, Wida, Judah, and Judah. Look at this. Juda. Alright, Judah. Juda. So the kingdom of Wida is associated with Judah. But I have another map after this one too. Judah. Dowie spelling Judah. Juda. Judah, the fourth son of Jacob, one of the descendants was to be the Messiah. One of the 12 tribes of Israel. Judah. Alright. Judah and descendants. Alright, Juda, all throughout here. Alright, in the scriptures. Judah, Juda. So sometimes they leave out the H. So going back, the kingdom of Wida also was known as the kingdom of Judah. Okay? It was a kingdom on the coast of West Africa in what is now Benin. See that? What is now Benin? Now, didn't we read about Benin? Right? The kingdom of Benin. The country of the Jews. Alright? So reading on. And the Juda spelling where they drop the H comes from the Douay Rhymes Bible from the 1500s, published in 1582. Right? So yeah, the kingdom of Wida, also known as the kingdom of Judah, kingdom of West Africa, and what is now Benin. Now check this out. It was a major slave trading area which exported more than 1 million Africans to the United States, the Caribbean, and Brazil before closing the trade in the 1860s. Okay? So the king of Judah's people were being sold into slavery to the United States, Caribbean, and Brazil, which makes me think of Isaiah 11:12. We were dispersed. Isaiah 11:12. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. So Judah was dispersed to the four corners of the earth. I actually have a book that speaks on Wida. It's in this book, Creole New Orleans, Race and Americanization, by Arnold R. Hirsch and Joseph Logsdon. All right, Arnold R. Hirsch was an American historian, born in 1949. All right, and Joseph Logsdon was born in 1938, and he was also an American historian. They came together and wrote this book, Creole New Orleans, Race and Americanization. All right, now he speaks about Judah and aka Wida in this book. We're going to go to page 69. See if I'm still recording. Bet. We're going to go to page 69, which states, although the Company of the Indies had a trading post at Judah, Gulf of Benin, see that? Judah, Gulf of Benin, there it competed with all the nations of Europe. The Portuguese were taking the upper hands at Judah. All right. The kings of Andres were hostile to the Europeans and interrupting the slave trade at Judah was becoming uncertain and unprofitable. So he keeps calling it Judah. All right. Right here in the same book, Judah equals Wida. See that? Judah is Wida. All right. And this is the number of slaves that were taken. All right. From the years 200, 250, 182, 349, 303, 464. Right? All right. The kingdom of Wida. Kingdom of Judah. Wida. See that? And he speaks of it again in page 67. Right? Which states the slave trade from Senegal intensified after 1725 between February 1726 and January 1731. 12 slave ships from Senegal Island, 3,259 slaves at Belize at the mouth of the Mississippi River. During the same period, one ship from Judah landed 464 slaves at the same port. All right. The African slaves brought to the Chesapeake during the 18th century came mainly from Bight of Biafra and were heavily Igbo, which the Igbo are also Hebrews, Igbo, Ibibo, Efkin, and Moko, with a significant minority from Angola. Between 1735 and 1740, 70% of the Africans brought to South Carolina came from Angola. Okay? So, notice that, the king of Judah. All right, we'll touch on the Igbo later. I just wanted to show you guys that, right? And I have another map. I have another map older than this one. All right, it was created by Livio Sanudo, an Italian cartographer. All right, a map designer, a scientific instrument maker. Livio Sanudo, born in 1520. He also made a map from the 1500s. All right, his artwork map was known as Africa Tabula 12, 1588. It was reprinted in 1889. Now, this was his map. Now, right here, it says, once again, Land of the Jews. We're going to zoom in on it in a minute. All right, this is the same map. All right, it says Udarum Terra. All right, now, Udarum Terra. Now, you can say, I don't see Judah or whatever. Understand this. He was writing this in Latin, right? So, let me break this down for you. When you see a V, the V is a U, okay? Because the letters U and V will be considered together, as in medieval period they were interchangeable. In Latin, there was no difference between a V or a U. So this V is really a U, all right? The V is really a U. So anytime you see a V, it's really a U, all right? Now, the I is really a J, all right? Because both I and J were used interchangeably by scribes to express the sound of both the vowel and the consonant. So it's a J. So we know that this is a U and this is a J. So it's Judarum Terra. Okay? That's Judarum Terra when we add that all up. All right? Judarum Terra. All right? That's what that says. Land of the Jews. All right? Terra Judarum. Land of the Jews. English to Latin. Latin to English. Okay? Point blank, period. All right, now let's go to the next book. So that was another man. Let's go to the next book that speaks. All right, Leo Africanus. He was born in 1494. See what Leo Africanus had to say in his book. The history and description of Africa and of the notable things therein contained, volume 1. Now we're going to go to page 32, where he states, howbeit they say that upon the Nile do inhabit two great populous nations, one of the Jews towards the west, under the government of a mighty king. See that? One of the Jews. Okay, because remember that I, once again, is a J. The other more southerly consisting of the Amazonians, or warlike women, whereof we may speak, or at language in our relation to the Mamanota, right? So the based on him saying the Amazon warlike women, we can put where this kingdom of the Judeans was, because he's speaking of the Dahomey woman warriors, known as the Dahomey Amazons. Now the Dahomey are located in present-day Benin. See that word Benin keeps popping up. And these would be Benin, Nigeria, Togo. So it'd be in this area. Once again, West Africa. What did he say? He said two great populations, one of the Jews towards the west, under the government of a mighty king. So once again, we know for a fact that Jews made it into the interiors of Africa, because it's documented. Let's go to the next book. James Gray Jackson. All right, he was born in the 1800s as well, maybe even the 1700s, because he died in 1850. James Gray Jackson. Let's see what he had to say. In his book, An Account of Timbuktu and Hausa Territories in the Interior of Africa, page 475. Right? All right, notice it says what? It says interior of Africa. It says interior of Africa, right? Now, this is what he had to say. 475. It says, page 187. Yehudi, a place of great trade. Yehudi, a place of great trade. This place is reported to be inhabited by one of the lost tribes of Israel, possibly an immigration from the tribe of Judah. Yehuda in African Arabic signifies Judah. Yehudi signifies Jew. It is not impossible that many of the lost tribes of Israel may be found dispersed in the interior region of Africa, when we shall become better acquainted with that continent. Okay? It is certain that some of the nations that possess the country eastward of Palestine, when the Israelites were a favorable nation, have immigrated to Africa. So once again, there's no doubt about it that you had Israelites that were all throughout Africa. All right? That's why I laugh when these people. See, this is the mind of the so-called white man, really the mind of the other nations. This is their mindset, right? First, they'll try to discredit us. Oh, you guys ain't got no proof. Then what we do, we pull up the proof. This is what they say. Yeah, but it doesn't really matter if you're an Israelite or not. It just matters we're all saved through Christ. See, first we was lying. Now we got the proof. Now it don't matter. See, now they just keep moving the goalposts, man. But it do matter. But anyway, where's the interior of Africa? Where's the interior of Africa at? First of all, let's get this first. Yehudi, Yehuda, all right? Yehuda. Do you mean Yehuda? Judah. All right, Yehuda. All right, Judah. The interior of Africa, that's Chad, Central African, Cameroon, Gabon, or Gabon, Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, Angola. You know, that region right there, interior of Africa, right? Let's see what Thomas Edward Bowditch had to say. And he was born in 1790. He was born in the 1700s. See what he had to say in his book, Mission from Cape Coast Castle to Ashanti. By the way, the Ashanti tribe are also Israelites. All right. 186, Mission to Ashanti. The Niger, after leaving the lake. All right, this word Niger is in the Bible. But first, smaller stream running northwards by Yehudi, a place of great trade. Yehudi. All right. Now, once again, Niger. That word Niger is also in the Bible too. Go to Acts 13:1. And the word is actually the N word. It's not pronounced Niger. Anyway, Acts 13:1. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simon, that was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch and Saul. Now this word Simon, first of all, this word Simon is a Hebrew name. All right, it means listening or hearkening. Simon is a Hebrew name, and Niger means black. Niger, black, a surname of Simon. He was probably so called from his dark complexion. He was dark skinned. All right, Niger equals black. It's really pronounced Niger, Niger, or Latin origin, black, Niger. All right, see that? Niger, African nation. Nigeria, West African nation. All right, and the N word comes from the word Niger. All right, the Latin word, the color black, Niger, over time became the N word. All right, the N word comes from earlier Latin Niger, Negro, black. This is Niger in Africa. And for those that say, oh, and I heard this dumb ass argument, it's talking about a place. It's not actually talking about his skin. First of all, the country of Niger was created in 1958. It was created in the 19th century. Okay? In the late 19th century. So, no. But anyway, let's get another book. This is a woman by the name of Lenora E. Burson. She wrote a book titled The Negroes and the Jews. Right? In this book, she states, check this out. This is page 212, I believe. She states, Negroes' claim to be Jewish is legitimate. The land of Israel is located in Western Asia and borders on North Africa. All of the native inhabitants of that region were non-white. When Spain expelled its Jews in 1492, many of them went to Africa. It seems probable that some of them were brought later to America as slaves. You see that? The spirituals never sing of African rivers. It's always the Jordan or the Red Sea. They don't sing about African chiefs or kings. It's David or Moses or some other Jewish characters from the Bible. See that? So point blank, period. And what is a famous Negro spiritual song? Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. The most well-known Negro spiritual is Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Why is that? The chariots are talking about the vehicles of the Most High. All right, the same vehicle that went and got up the prophet Elijah. All right, you read about that. I mean, that's all throughout the scriptures. There's another scripture that states that the chariots of the Most High are 1,000, even 10,000. But we're going to get 2 Kings 2 and 12. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. He saw him no more, and he took hold of his clothes and rent them in 2 pieces. Swing low, sweet chariot, the chariot of Israel. Okay? And speaking on this as well, speaking of the Negroes, where do the Negroes reside mostly? In the ghetto. All right, the ghetto. All right, historically, the word ghetto means the Jewish quarter in a city. All right, ghetto, especially resembling a characteristic of a ghetto or its inhabitants, especially with relation to African American culture. So, ghetto, Jewish quarter of a city, is reliable to African American culture. All right, I wonder why. Wonder why we live in the ghetto. Next book by Olada Aquano. This is a guy who was a slave that ended up working to his own freedom. A brother by the name of Olada Aquano. He was a writer abolitionist. All right, taken from a village from southern Nigeria, enslaved as a child in Africa. He was shipped in the Caribbean and sold to the Royal Navy officer. He's going to talk about how his tribe practiced many Hebrew customs. Page 20 of his book, The Interesting Narrative of the Life of Olada Aquano, written by himself. Page 20. He says, we practiced circumcision like the Jews and made offerings and feasts on that occasion in the same manners as they did. Like them also, our children were named from some event, some circumstance, or fancied foreboding at the time of their birth. I was named Olada, which in one language signifies, fortunate. All right. So they practiced circumcision, and they had, they named their child after nomen omens, name signs, and they practiced circumcisions, and they made offerings and feasts. All right, which makes you think of the scripture what? Genesis 17:10, the circumcision covenant. Genesis 17:10. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised. You go to Genesis 29 and 32, talking about name signs, right? Here's an example of name signs. Genesis 29 and 32. And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, surely the Lord hath looked upon my affliction, now therefore my husband will love me. And she conceived again and bare a son, and said, because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, he hath therefore given me this also. And she called his name Simon, all right, or Simeon. And she conceived again and bare a son, and said, now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore his name called Levi. These are all name signs. Like he said, they were named, their children were named after some event or circumstance. All right, let's go to page 21, where he states, I have before remarked that the natives of this part of Africa are extremely cleanly. This necessary habit of decency was with us a part of religion, and therefore we had many purifications and washings. Indeed, almost as many, and used the same occasions, if my recollection does not fail me, as the Jews. Those that touched the dead at any time were obliged to wash and purify themselves before they could enter into a dwelling house. All right. So before they get into, if they touch the dead body, they had to clean themselves. Numbers 19 and 11. He that toucheth the dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days. He shall purify himself with it on the 3rd day. And on the 7th day he shall be clean. But if he purify not himself the 3rd day, then the 7th day he shall not be clean. Every woman too at certain times was forbidden to come into a dwelling house or touch any portion of anything we eat. Why is that? Because the woman was on her flower, all right, what you call her period. All right, Leviticus 15 and 19 speaks on that. And if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the even. And everything that she lieth upon and her separated shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. See that? So that is the time of her separation. All right. Till an offering was made, and they were purified. So an offering was made, and then they were purified. All right. And the priest, Leviticus chapter 15 and 30. And the priest shall offer the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for her before the Lord for the issue of her uncleanness. See that? They made an offering. All right. Verse 33, and of her that is sick of her flowers, and of him that hath an issue of the man, and of the woman of him that lieth with her that is unclean. All right, so they had these same ceremonies in his tribe, which we're going to find out what tribe he's from. Was, like I told you, remember, the Igbo, or the Igbo, or the Hebo. All right. Though we had no places of public worship, we had priests and magicians or wise men. Deuteronomy 17 and 9. And thou shalt come unto the priests, the Levites, and unto the judge, that shall be in those days, and inquire, and they shall show the sentence of judgment. All right, the priests, the wise men. And Numbers 11 and 16. And the Lord said unto Moses, gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people, and officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand with thee. Okay? The priests and magicians, or wise men. Okay? And he speaks about in this other book, he also speaks about the customs of the countrymen. Those are the Jews, land of promise, all that. We're going to go to here, verse 26. He says, like the Israelites in their primitive state, our government was conducted by our chiefs or judges. Once again, come on to the priest and onto the judge. Priests or judges, or chiefs, by our chiefs or judges, or our wise men and elders. All right. Gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel. And the head of a family with us enjoyed a familiar authority over his household, with that which is ascribed to Abraham and the other patriarchs. The law of retaliation obtained almost universally with us as with them. So they had a law of retaliation. A person who has injured another person to be penalized to a similar degree. That's the law, biblical law of retaliation. You read about that in Exodus 21 and 24, which states, Exodus 21 and 23. And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. That's the law of retaliation that they also practice. And even their religion appeared to have them upon a ray of its glory, or upon us a ray of its glory, though broken, the spirit of its passage, or eclipsed by the cloud with which time, tradition, and ignorance might have enveloped it. All right. So over time, traditions began to become corrupt. All right. As to the difference of color between the Eboan Africans and the modern Jews, all right, saying that they look different. I wonder why, right? Now, once again, he was of the Ebo tribe, so meaning they had the Hebrew practices. He was a member of the Ebo tribe. According to his memoir, Aquano was born in 1745 in an Ebo village. Okay? Don't you know that Ebos were sent into slavery? Those same people with those customs were sent into slavery. Between the 15th and 19th century, neither 1.5 million Igbo slaves were sent across the Middle Passage. All right, the lost Jews of Nigeria, the Igbo, all right, also known as Igbo, Igbo, and Hebo. All right, the Igbo people. And they were sent through the slave trade. They went all throughout, all right, Cuba, Jamaica, South America, all everywhere, man. Anyway, next book. Speaking of the Igbo people. Let's go to the Moravian Church, founded in 1457. It's a long time ago. Let's go to the Moravian Church. Shout out to Beniah Israel. This is where I got this one from, where he states on this: whereas the Igbos do not tolerate one uncircumcised slave among them, only when he is circumcised do they accept him in his worth of a human company. All right, see that? So they were still keeping the law of circumcision. Among the Igbos, they, the priests, are taken out of a sort of people whom they call living sacrifices. These very ones live celibate and without property at the expense of others, and have the liberty to take from others all of what they need, and nobody hinders them. Like the Pharisee among the Jews, they let their hair grow, and the use of the scissors is not permitted to them. They had Nazirite vows. All right. See that? They take from others, like the Levites. Well, the Levites were obligated to get tributaries from people, the tithes and offerings, etc. Right? Even when speaking of uncircumcision, to this very day, Nigeria has a 98.9 circumcision rate, the number one circumcised place in the world. Next book, a guy by the name of Elisee Reclus. Born in 1830, born in the 1800s. Let's see what he had to say. Page 175 on his book, The Earth and Its Inhabitants, The Universal Geography, Volume 12, where he states, they have been compared to the Saracos, the Jews of West Africa, but unlike them, they are chiefly wholesome dealers, carrying on large caravan trade between Sierra Leone and Timbuktu and extending their expedition from the Senegal to the lower Niger. Okay, so the Jews of West Africa. Once again, it is documented. Okay. Let's see what else I got. Oh, Saraco, that's in West Africa. All right, the Saraco people. Here's what they look like. All right, head wraps. Long dresses. Next book, Ludovico di Varthema, born in 1470 in Italy. See what he had to say in his book, The Travels of Ludovico di Varthema in Egypt, Syria, Arabia, Deserta, and Arabia, Felix, and Persia, 1503 to 1508. We're going to go to page 22, where he states, personal experience enables me to add that such also in the prevailing tradition among the Jews of Yemen, of their original settlement in that country, the Jews of Yemen. All right, here's a picture of Yemen, which is, there's just a gulf that separates Yemen from Ethiopia, Eritrea, East Africa. Okay? Now, this is what he had to say about their color. Page 23. Their mountain, there dwell, from various accounts, it is natural to infer that the Jewish mountain, there dwell 4,000 or 5,000 Jews who go naked and are in height 5 or 6 spans and have a feminine voice and are more black than any other color. See that? More black than any other color. They live entirely upon the flesh of sheep and eat nothing else, which is lawful in the scriptures. They are circumcised and confess that they are Jews. And if they can get a Moor into their hands, they skin him alive. All right. The African diaspora in Yemen. All right. Once again, he said what? They are more black than any color. All right. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to get a last verse before I close out. The last verse will be Wisdom of Solomon, the 5th chapter, verses 1 through 5. One of my favorite verses. It speaks on, see, it was actually written out that these people would not believe we were the children of God. They wouldn't believe that we were the Israelites, but we in fact are. Let's get Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as afflicted him and made no account of his labors, which is right now. We stand up in front of all these nations and we talk what we got to say. We speak what we got to speak, and we don't really care. All right, that's being bold. Whether it's doing these videos or in the streets or whatever, man. All right, catch us in traffic. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear. See that? They're afraid. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all that they look for. And they, repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit, shall say within themselves, this was he whom we had sometimes in derision and a proverb of reproach. Yeah, these are the guys they made fun of. Oh, we made fun of these guys. Aren't you guys dressed up like superheroes? Aren't you those black Hebrew Israelites, even though we don't call ourselves that? That's derogatory. We don't call ourselves black. We fools accounted his life madness and his end to be without honor. How is he numbered among the children of God, and his lot is among the saints? How are these Negroes part of the saints? How could they be? All right. So they're going to point and laugh. Hey, but real soon, man, it's all going to be revealed. All right. We're going to get the hell up out of here. We're going to get saved by our Lord, Yahawah. And he's going to send his son, Yahawashi, to get us out of here, man. Anyways, man, with that, that'll be the ending of this lesson, the Jews that fled into Africa, man. Lord, when this lesson was edifying, hopefully coming at you through the spirit and power of Yahawashi. All right, with that, I say peace to the 12. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, the Most High Yahawah, in the name of his only begotten Son, Yahawashi. Yahawah is the name of the Heavenly Father, who is commonly known as God. Yahawashi is the Savior of the nation of Israel, who is commonly known as Jesus Christ. I want to say shalom, which means peace to you people listening and learning. Brothers doing this work in truth and sincerity, and to you elders that's been doing this thing before me. I'm out of here. Peace, gone.